back to the East-West All-Stars. Coach Phil Weaver with us again. We try to talk to Coach Weaver every year about the tournaments and the activities and the games and all the sports going on. Right now we go from the summertime indoors, nice and cool. Indoors still nice and cool. Going to be in the Coliseum Fieldhouse. Fieldhouse, East-West All-Star boys and girls basketball. Girls at 6:30, I think. Boys around 8:30 when they get going.
Right.
The girls, you got some good Guilford County. Well, a lot of good girls on the teams. This West team, though, got a good representation of Guilford County activity. Got that Hanny Sloya from over at Page. Got Maslin Mossbacher from Northwest. Got Jasmine Harris, little Jasmine from over at Northern Guilford.
Right.
So you should have a good Guilford County, the old word contingency here this evening.
And got a Mount Tabor.
Yeah, so you got a good local representation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I know you're looking forward to the games. Tell us about what's going on this week, getting ready for the games, and what we can expect to see from these girls tonight.
Okay. We had the board meeting yesterday, as always. I ran by the clinic this morning on my way in here, and the lines were out of the exhibition hall, so that's a good sign. And the kids are practicing. The girls practice at Western Guilford. They're very cooperative, and then Southwest is, gosh, we've worked with them for so long. Brendan Chrisman over there and Reed Holmes. We also practice football there, but we got the boys practicing there. Things been going smoothly once they've been here. The replacement kids can all play, so we're kind of happy about that.
Kind of a christening, so to speak, for the East-West All-Stars, kind of a baptismal service tonight. New game, so to speak, in the field house.
Yeah, we, we've never had a lot of people since Rodney Rogers. I think we had 7,500. We haven't come close to that again. And we just felt like we're paying an awful lot of rent to rent that big facility, and going to the little one, we can save. We can't save on personnel because Coliseum's going to staff it fully. But the arena rent itself is about $6,000 cheaper, so that's a major factor. Plus, we've played the North Carolina, South Carolina games at Hoggard High School in Wilmington, and it's smaller than the field house, but a smaller facility gets the crowd into it a little bit more, and even if it doesn't, they sound louder.
Oh, yeah. It's been some fun games at the Coliseum Special Event Center over the years, and moved some of the HACO tournament games to the Novant Fieldhouse this past year. I was there for the Greensboro Day School Caldwell Academy game, first one I'd seen in that building, and well, that Friday night, that place was busy and a lot of people in there. Like you say, the crowds really get into it. The crowds are kind of on top of the players. The whole overall environment enthusiasm is really good.
Right. I agree. And we've also got some premium seats courtside, which some people are, I guess, going to be willing to pay a little extra for.
And you'll have a pretty good representation, too. I'm sure a good fan base. So Northwest should be there to support Mossbacher. And I know Northern Guilford girls have always supported Jasmine Harris. I'm sure Coach Furlow will be somewhere nearby watching from her days coaching Jasmine. And then you look at Page with Hattie Sloya. I know Coach Ed Johnson, he's just overjoyed the fact that Hattie's there. Looking forward to seeing what she does. For a lot of these girls, could be their last basketball game. Some girls will play on in college. I know one thing kind of strange for me. I'm still having to accept this realization that Jasmine Harris, this will be her last basketball game, per se, because she's going to North Carolina, from what I hear, just to go to school.
Right. Well, she'll probably. I'm sure their intramural program there is strong enough that she'll have a good time doing that. It won't be a job like it is for the kids that play for colleges.
And I think Mossbacher's going to Fairmouth, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure she'll probably try to play some there. And then Hattie's going to a school up north, I think, to eventually study law. So I think she may be playing it. I know Hattie's got the tennis background too, but these local girls are just good kids, and the boys are the same way. You look at the Southern Guilford duo of Jabari Love and Jamias Ferrer, and then you bring on Jackson Sellers and Page, and it's interesting about Ferrer and Love. Those guys are seniors. They've been together for a few years. They took Southern about as far as Southern Guilford basketball could go this past season.
Yeah.
In a long time. They haven't gone that far in years. Went to Hickory. I was up there with them that night at Hickory. That Friday night was kind of very good first half, kind of a tough second half. And those guys, those two kids can play.
Yeah, and picked up Jonah Ridgel from Chatham Charter. That's not too far down the road.
And plus having the Sellers kid from Page, interesting story about him. His last year in high school was pretty much his year to show what he could do, because the first couple of years he was kind of in and out from Page, and then one time over at Bethany Community School, I think, kind of moved back and forth, and then gets to Page that last season. People watching Sellers, and that kid, he really blew some people away this year. So his game, you go back and watch the film, the tape of his game and the Greensboro Day versus Page game, Hayco tournament semifinals. You'll never see a better sequence what he had. I think he hit a free throw on one end, came down the court, blocked the attempted game-winning shot on the other end for Greensboro Day. I mean, that kid can play, and some of these kids have been kind of gone through the sequence of names being representation a little bit unnoticed sometimes, and in games like these, sometimes they just go crazy. They love it.
There's often stars who come in and they're good, but they don't shine like you'd expect, and somebody else who hadn't been looked at. We're going to have 2 or 3 college coaches in the tunnel back there saying, I need to talk to so-and-so.
Mm-hmm. Can you get me in touch with him right quick?
And, of course, we're happy that the local Coach Corbett from Grimsley is coaching the West men, so that's nice.
He is a guy who is definitely a young man who respects the game because of what his father did over the years.
Right.
He's highly revered Big Don Corbett, what he did over the years at A&T and throughout. And Coach Corbett came up through Southern Guilford of all places in high school, and then he's local. He went down to Fayetteville, I think, for a couple of years, and came back to Grimsley and is coaching there again and doing a great job there. And it's Coach Corbett again is a well-respected man. He does respect the game, and he understands and has humility toward the game. And he's a guy who really is a good man to have on those sidelines.
No, he's a good person.
Absolutely. And also a good teacher, by the way, too. Very good to class.
He's been teacher of the year twice.
That's what I
know that.
Yeah, exactly.
And, of course, I coached the girls when he was coaching the boys the first time. And we never had an issue dividing the gym or whatever. He's a good man to work with.
That's people sometimes don't see how those.
You can have some real battles over who's got gym time now.
Especially first practice or second practice. Who's got early practice? Who's got late practice? And how long can and the coaches, you hate it sometimes. You don't hate it, but sometimes you see it. But the coach who's got practice next to you just standing there watching you, waiting for you. You say, get off that court. Let's get our time and let's go. You're going too long. But like you say, good man to work with. And go back to your days, Coach at Grimsley. I always think about this before we do our talks every year because we're going to talk basketball. Let me ask you this first of all. This question was in my mind this weekend.
Right.
Who was a better basketball player? We're looking at high school for the most part. You look different. It's hard to sometimes decide who's better. It's hard to judge between 2 very good players. But you look at Pete Maravich or David Thompson.
At that stage, Pete was, because he was so far and above everybody else. If they had 3-point shot back then, he'd scored 60 in our game.
I was going to say 70 was within reach.
Yeah, he was. Now, David, in the long run, ended up being the better player because he was so much more physical, I think, and he could jump out of the gym.
Absolutely.
But as a high school player, you'd probably take Pete. But if you had either one, you'd be real happy.
I guarantee you would be. Yeah. Now, did both those guys? I know Pete did because you actually practiced against him. I think in practice when you were here that one year. Did Pete and David both play in the game?
Yes.
I thought David did. I was just making sure David did because the time David was coming through was about the time things started to change a little bit when they started to guard these players a little bit more.
I think David played in 75, if my memory serves.
Well, if you could go back and if you could run that game back tonight or run that game back any night, boy, that'd be fun to do that again.
Yeah.
Just based on what those guys went on to do. Well, what about a guy like Rusty Clark? Did he play here? Back in the day?
I'm sure he did because Dean had all his kids play.
Oh, yeah,
Rusty, he's on the picture in the hall.
There he goes. That's
he played
the guy.
with Maravich.
He's a tall
Bunting,
guy.
Maravich on
Bunting
the same
too.
team.
I was going to ask about Bunting. Yeah, because Grubar not from this state, but Bunting from this state, so he definitely played. I think Bunting might have been from New Bern. Yeah, and Rusty down around Wilmington somewhere.
And then a kid named Brown played at Carolina. Dale Stubbs played at Duke. Was in that game.
Yeah.
Albright played. The elder Albright, not Judge, but his brother, played freshman at Duke, and that picture out there is just full of kids that ended up playing.
Rusty Clark was one of the first big men I actually started noticing in college basketball. That's when I guess the big man started to get a little bit more attention. The big man also got more, looked to be more coordinated, more cerebral, so to speak, as a thinker of a player, and he did a lot for Carolina. I think he wanted to be a doctor, too, possibly. After he got out of college, may have become a doctor. What about a guy like Tony Byers out of Elm City? Did he play here back in the day?
He did.
Yeah, he was a player, too, for Wake Forest. Heck of a scorer back in the day. And you mentioned the Durham Bull, Rodney Rogers, back when he was around. He was the one. He was the total package, I would say.
Rodney opened the second half with a 360, and I mean, the Coliseum exploded. It was pretty spectacular. Sort of like the dunk that Zion had against Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, except Rodney's was two-handed, I think.
Rodney Rogers was one some kind of talent back in his day.
Gil McGregor.
Gil McGregor was a good personality too. Went on to become a good color commentator for basketball in the pros and in college after he got out of college.
Yeah, it's too bad he had the health issues.
Yes, he did.
But he did come. Within the last 5 years, he spoke to our banquet, and kind of interesting to be able to introduce a guy that had 22 rebounds in an All-Star game.
That's a lot of rebounds.
Yeah, because you don't play but half the game.
Yeah, you do, because you got to get everybody in.
Time evenly.
Right.
22 is a ton.
You're not kidding. That is a load right there, and you got to. Some of these games you just hear about this, you'd like to go back and watch some of these on tape again, see what this is.
Yeah, I wish there were tapes.
Yeah, absolutely. What about think about the coaches right quick? Let's go before I leave Grimsley. Let's go back to I always like to bring up the old team that Coach Weaver had. We had those 5 Division I players because I always miss one player, but I had Tremaine Lucas, I had Kristen Fields, Nicole Hargrave, Amber Cook. I always miss that 4th one. Jasmine Austin.
Very good.
How I got it, I don't know. That was it's like trying to remember the 4 Oriole pitchers that had 20 wins in one season. Remember those guys: Jim Palmer, Dave McNally, Pat Dobson, and Mike Cuellar. And I couldn't remember that the other day, but it came to me right now because Dave McNally was a tough one to remember. Those things are crazy.
Always we're going to have to call you an encyclopedia, I think.
But those little groups, and sometimes they're kind of trivial, but that group, you had those Division I players because you had such a good coaching staff, too. You had the outstanding the tough man Wayne Barker, had big Wayne Butler and yourself. That was a great coaching staff, too.
Wayne was a good guy. He's donated a lot of time to helping kids.
To what, Wayne Barker and Butler?
Butler,
yeah. And Butler's deceased. Is Wayne Barker still with us?
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
He was that other assistant coach you had that year.
I had Phil Barry.
Barry, there you go. Barry, Barry, there you go. Yeah, Phil. Barry. Yeah, that's what I remember, too.
Phil's still around. He's still a member of our association.
So Phil Barry, Wayne Butler, is Barry instead of Barker.
Yeah.
I think Barker was a coach of another sport.
Yeah,
possibly.
I don't know him.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, Phil was a real student of the game.
Mm-hmm.
He brought a lot of good X and O and.
Looked like he had that kind of IQ as a coach over there on the bench with you.
Yeah, he'd been a head men's coach at High Point Central.
Gotcha. Phil Barry.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many names to keep
good
up
guy.
with. Boy, good guy and good work that you have with that team. Think about the basketball game. Let's go back to, we talked a lot of history right now. Again, tonight's game. Give us the kind of the skinny on tonight's games, the games that are coming up tonight.
Okay, tickets are $15 and courtside is $25 if there are any left.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, 6:30. You can get tickets at the door. You don't have to go on Ticketmaster and pay that fee if you don't want to. And the boys will be 20 minutes after the girls, so it's just a matter of how long they play. But the boys will start between 8:30 and 8:45 probably.
And your coverage has been pretty good this year too. I saw some video work maybe on Twitter and around the websites from Brian Hall. Brian does an outstanding job, and did also I think the News and Record
from
who's that again?
GHP.
Tim. Oh yeah, Timmy Hawks. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
very much on it. Very much on it. And the young man for the News and Record, Bryant Roche, has had some articles. He's kind of brought the News and Record to touch back to it again this year. I think.
Yeah, it's nice.
Taking that into major consideration.
Right.
They had some overlap, I think, there for a while as far as employees were here and people coming and going here and there. But he's taken an interest in it. And today he said he enjoyed his article. He did one on Jasmine Harris. And he's got something about Hattie Sloyan, I think, maybe in the paper today. So well done as far as that work goes, the coverage of the games. And you mentioned, we mentioned WFI2, Brian Hall, Timmy Hawks, Fox 8, and others covering the games pretty well
and
for
then
you.
Danny Harden is our MC at the banquet every year.
Oh, boy, you can't beat that.
It's nice having
Very
him.
good representation.
Yeah.
Anytime you get that local presence like that, they're gonna leave that event and go back and talk about it at their place. That's what you want.
We hope so.
Yeah, that's the whole idea behind it sometimes too. That correlation, how it kind of overlaps. Let's get back to, before we get to the soccer games, let's just do some clinic talk right quick. We always and that's usually Coach Morris's baby as far as that goes.
Well, actually, he turned it over to Joe Franks.
So Joe's got it now.
So Joe put the clinic together this year.
Who do you have this year?
We can't get college coaches anymore. We moved the football game to December, thinking we could get Division I football coaches. That was the
That was the plan.
Was half the selling point.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe started calling. He called all the Big Four: East Carolina, Appalachian, Charlotte, Clemson. They all give their staffs off in July. So he and Mac wrote them a letter saying, in the future, put these dates down. This is next year's clinic,
right.
and you guys missing an opportunity if you don't come. So we're going to have the 4 NCCA football state champion coaches speak, which ought to be interesting. We got a Georgia coach that's highly successful in football. He's got some national champions like from Randolph-Macon and whatever. He's got renowned folks in softball. I don't know these people's names.
Oh yeah.
I might have a schedule here. This will help me. So let's see, what sport do we want here? Oh, we've got some junior high, middle school
That's
sessions
good stuff.
now.
Very good stuff.
Trying to bring people along.
Oh yeah. I tell you, if people want to go back, they want to see a game on video. Go back and watch some Greensboro Sports Talk on video. That middle school basketball girls and boys championship here at Grimsville last year had Northwest versus Coronado. Coronado girls won it, and then we had Southwest versus Northeast, and then Northeast won that. But that gym, the Bob Sawyer gym, was pretty well packed for middle school basketball. It's getting big. Getting big.
That's pretty.
And all your
impressive.
girls in this game today too. Jasmine Harris, Hattie Sloyan, and Mossbach are all former middle school, very good basketball players.
Okay. You're talking about clinicians. We
Yes,
got
sir.
Rob Cole, UNC for wrestling. I don't guess Randolph-Macon, Josh Merkel, and Mike Jones, UNCG for basketball.
Coach basketball.
Men's basketball.
Right.
Women's is John Haskins from Pembroke, Ann Hancock from Wingate, Rob Thompson from Clemson, who was assistant coach on the national championship team for soccer. Chris Harlow's doing golf. He does that every year.
Outstanding.
Kermit Smith from Appalachian State and Jim Gant from Catawba in baseball. Track, Carolina's bringing us Amen Nickfar. I'm sorry, I don't know who it is. And Jessica Ryden. Tommy Moore from A&T is doing strength and conditioning. We've tried to start adding that.
Right.
Chase Crocker, who's got a firm called Winning Mindset, is going to do the mental approach, which is a new. Joe's always trying to put something in there we haven't done to see if folks will respond. Like the strength and conditioning has grown from 10 people the first year. We did it one more, and now we're getting good crowds in the sessions.
Right.
Football would of course be Eric Teague from Reedsville.
Oh, yeah.
Atkins from Freedom, who was at Mount Airy when he won the state championship. Joe Glass at Hickory.
Yeah, it was used to Guilford one time. Joe Glass, former Guilford County coach. Yeah.
And Andy Capone, who ended Grimsley's season.
Yes, he did. Andy Capone, Al Capone's long lost cousin, for sure.
And then we got Maurice Freeman from Dalesville, Alabama, not Georgia. Softball, Brandon Jenkins from Northside High School in Georgia, and Danny Way from Eastern Alabama.
Danny Way is well respected.
Who always has a great program. And then Poi Domenech from Wingate is going to do cross country. And I think there's only two more. Tennis, Jeff Trivet at UNCG.
He has been around for a long. I interviewed that guy when I was doing radio back in 2000. He's been forever. Jeff Trivet. I mean, he's like the dean of all coaches at UNCG, I think.
He does that every year so that he knows from year to year different drills, so he doesn't show the same thing he did the year before and that sort of thing. And then volleyball is Mike Shaw from UNC.
Good stuff.
And we've got swimming with Dan Kessler from NC State, who of course was ACC champion. So
I tell you, NC State swimming over the years, man, they have been very
they got two
talented.
Olympians.
Yeah.
He's got two Olympians. So.
And you had guys like Bob Guzzo. He came here maybe once or twice back when he was coaching NC State wrestling. I think it was Bill Lamb at Carolina, coached wrestling there. Came to the clinic. I seen him back in the day. I think even back in the early days, Pat Head came here back in her day, possibly. But before she became Pat Head Summit, you had guys like back in the day, if I'm not mistaken, you had Jim Kehoe from University of Maryland. His track staff came here years ago. You had guys like let's see, Bill Battle, Tennessee. Remember back in the old days, the Tennessee football staff.
Yeah, but you need to go back to Adolph Rupp and Joe Paterno. And
you had Adolph Rupp here?
Yeah.
And,
Bobby Knight.
I was going to say you had Robert Knight back when he was in the Army.
Roy and Dean. And,
what about Lou Carnesecca? Did you ever have Lou Carnesecca here? I thought you might
Oh,
have.
yeah.
See, that's big time, too.
Yeah.
People forget names like that. Luke
Right.
Carnesecca. I was thinking about him this morning. I was out running. I said, oh, Lord, Carnesecca. I'd even try to spell that name these days. It would be tough. But those, you had the names.
Valvano.
Yeah, Valvano is an early gem. I think he came just as transitioning from Iona to State, but became
He was at State.
Yeah.
I got to tell you a great story.
Okay.
Mac used to sit in on the basketball since he was a basketball coach, and he would always stand up when it was time for the guy to wind it down, and then he'd put his foot start to go on the stage to give him another hint. And Valvano looks at him, and he keeps going, and Mac puts his foot up on the stage, and Valvano looks at him, looks away. Mac takes another step up the stage. Valvano looks over and says, sit down, Mac, I'm on a roll.
And that's a young Jim Valvano, too, which was some of the better stuff was the younger Jim Valvano in his earlier days.
He was quite the character.
Well, he was one of a kind. He looked the same, even though he was Jim Valvano when he got sick at the end. He sometimes looked the same in the beginning and in the end. Had that hair look, had that Italian look. Just a great guy.
And if you ever need a good speaker, listen to his daughter. She's an excellent public speaker.
I remember his wife was good and his daughter, but because she kind of got into it with the Jim Valvano Foundation.
Yes.
She kind of took it around with that.
She spoke to in fact, she's spoken twice at our North Carolina, South Carolina banquet.
Wow.
And does a really good job.
I remember his wife, I think her name was Pam Valvano, his wife, but I can't remember his daughter's name. Yeah. Yeah, but that Jim Valvano, boy, his speech is still used in reference to so many things over the years. Because I'll be doing an interview sometime with somebody. We'll be talking about exercise and training. Say, do not. I know that's a lady from Murphy Wainer. We're talking about exercise and working out in the heat. It tells so many people, do not stop, don't quit training. I said, boy, that's exactly what Valvano told us not to do. He always says, do not stop, never quit, never stop trying. But in the heat, sometimes this heat, you do have to stop.
Yeah, we're gonna have to move soccer practices in the gym this afternoon.
That's unusual.
We're already over the wet bulb reading that we can't go outdoors.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because you think about practicing soccer indoors. It used to be because it was too wet. Now it's because it's too hot.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's crazy.
First time we ever had to do it.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I was telling a lady from Murphy Wainer about, I was going to call it the bubble, but like you said, it's the wet bulb. You have to be careful with those temperatures. And in my training, it's not to be correlated to what you guys do, completely different what you have going here, but doing the training the past few weeks or past week or so, about past 2 weeks, I've kind of trained. I usually run, let's go run 3 or 4 miles nonstop. Now I've been doing it, run about a mile and stop and rest a little bit. Run hard, take a little break, let the heart relax, and then run hard again, but don't run full blast or close to full blast for 3 or 4 miles because that's, as you get older in the heat, it is if nothing else, it's a sweat box.
Oh, just wait. You're talking about getting older. Just wait.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I was for my basketball clinic talk though. I was at the court yesterday, the Forest Valley court. Still go down there every Sunday. Been doing that some court like Lake Daniel and then Forest Valley all the years for since 1980. Won't miss a Sunday. Got to go every Sunday. Nobody's there. You keep shooting, keep training. Got to go back. But the deal yesterday was all. And I might be able to correlate this into a training session someday. You know, there's these trainers are charging kids $100 an hour now, stuff like that to train. Whole workout yesterday was one. I said, you do it every Sunday. It does get a little different, a little monotonous after a while. But you want to keep doing it. You want to keep it up. Don't stop doing it. So yesterday was all left-handed shots. Everything left-handed. And there's a lot to be learned in doing that kind of shooting. A lot of discipline. Because you say, I can't take a right-handed shot. I got to shoot a ball left-handed. You occasionally slip up and shoot a right-handed shot and say, oh, I messed up there. I
Trying to be Larry Bird.
I don't know. Was he left-handed? I guess he was.
No, he was right-handed.
But he shot left-handed too.
He played one whole game left-handed.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
No.
Yeah, with him, not surprised
and
at all.
he told everybody in advance he was going to do it.
His NBA game?
Uh-huh.
Wow, amazing.
I only had 20-something, I think.
Oh, man, I'd love to watch that film. He was so unusual because he had a great bank shot too.
Yeah,
People didn't use the bank shot.
You just wish he and Magic had played on the same team.
Oh my! Well, did they? I guess they didn't have the dream team for the Olympics back then with those guys. I guess
that was the original dream.
Now, they were together then or not?
Michael.
Yeah, Michael was with them too.
Leitner was the token college guy.
Right. Wow, amazing.
That was Barkley.
Well,
that was a heck of a team.
Oh man, you couldn't lose a game with those guys.
That's what they didn't.
There's no way you could lose. Larry Bird, though, his the crazy thing was he had that right side bank shot. He had that baseline go behind the basket. The shot he had people don't even respect or remember was Larry Bird was an outstanding dunker. He could slam it. I mean, he was taller than people. He didn't play tall. He played small.
He was 6'9".
Yeah, he was tall, exactly tall, but he played so much smaller because he was in that range of just shooting like he did. I mean, you could talk about that guy probably all day long. The stuff he did. But plus, they say he was out. Can't say outstanding to describe this. They say he was a very good trash talker too in the course of his games.
I think he was supposed to be the best. Is what most of them.
That's
say.
what they were saying of all people.
Yeah.
Larry Bird, yeah.
But he could follow it up. So.
Yeah, he could back it up. I mean, it's unreal. Those guys you mentioned now, the respect for Bird and Magic and Charles Barkley. I mean, that's unreal what those guys do. All left-handed shots yesterday at that training workout session. Just kept it going. That's halftime, I guess. The band is cranked
Can I
up.
look what it is?
Yeah, that must be halftime.
Excuse me.
That's okay. When the band kicks in.
Evan, we got it taken care of. Thank you. Good. We got it taken care of. Thank you. Bye.
Don't know if it was Evan Fancourt or
It
not.
was.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how all
Had
this
to get
stuff.
some air conditioning in the Grimsley gym.
Yeah, how all this ties together. The ball I was using at the workouts that I have been using in the past year at the workouts now is a ball that is actually given to me by Evan Fancourt.
Okay.
He gave me my basketball. And he stepped down at Page for basketball. He read an article I had on my website about. I was at the Forest Valley Court one Sunday, and the ball. You talk about the lip of golf. People the lip of a golf course cup.
Mm-hmm.
The hole, but the lip of a basketball court is the edge of the court, the lip where the concrete is. The ball hits the lip, you got to go chase the ball longer than ever. Ball hit the lip of the court one Sunday, hit that lip, and at Forest Valley, you've seen Forest Valley Court.
Oh, yeah.
They got the creek there.
Mm-hmm.
Ball hits that ground, it starts rolling. When it goes in that creek, that baby's gone. Absolutely, you said the same too, Lord. But so I lost it one Sunday, the ball. But I finally found it about 5 feet from the court because it actually had not rolled down. It had hit the bushes and got hit in the bushes. So the whole story about the whole thing was about the basketball was Evan saw the article and said, I'm going to get this guy a new basketball. So he bought me one, brought it by, and that ball and I are inseparable now.
Good for him.
Yeah, Evan's a good one.
I think he's going to do a good job.
He's a Grimsley guy, too.
Yes.
Grimsley man back home again.
Yeah.
And he went to Lynchburg University up in Lynchburg, played basketball there back in the day. Interesting. But back to everything. Well, we talked about our clinics and talked about the basketball games tonight. Let's get on to the soccer right now. Soccer's a challenge tomorrow night, Tuesday. You talked about the heat this week. They're practicing indoors today. Talk about the soccer games and what this means to the overall week of East-West All-Star games.
Okay, of course, soccer at the clinic will be tomorrow. And we've moved the game from McPherson to Grimsley.
Mm-hmm.
We were not getting the crowd we thought would follow. We thought that was such a soccer venue. And with not playing football, that opened Grimsley's field up and be a whole lot closer to the coaches at the clinic.
Absolutely, just come on over.
We're hoping that'll really help the crowd some. And, of course, we got the great scoreboard, and Al Barnett does such a fantastic job of putting all the kids' pictures up there, the officials, the coaches, all that. The graphics he does are remarkable, and that'll be nice. And Michael Court's voice of the Whirlies will be on the mic as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to put all the fans on the east side, the Grimsley side, and we'll put the teams on the far side.
Has it been played here before?
No.
No, first time. I know it was played at UNCG for a while back.
We played at UNCG for a long, long time, and then they had change in athletic leadership. And under the stands in July for the girls' game with the sun coming right out of the west in your face, it was brutally hot.
Yeah.
And it was a great field and great facility. Parking's not so good, but so we went to McPherson, and we were there for 4, 5, 6 years, I guess.
A lot of people look at McPherson and say that's a long drive out there. Some people feel like that.
We're hoping anyway that's what happened. So we're expecting a little better crowd tomorrow night.
Any thoughts about one time about maybe having had it on Wednesday instead of Tuesday? Or you'd like to stick with Tuesday?
Well, we don't have much choice because you want the kids to have the full experience. And if they come Wednesday, there's no banquet for them.
Right.
See, they come in yesterday, and they go to the banquet before they do anything. So they haven't even practiced time they go to the banquet. And we moved basketball to Monday so that we could get the kids who could miss maybe one day of summer school, get back to college by Tuesday's classes, and that's helped us a little bit there.
It's all about condensing it, then, isn't it? Probably trying to make it a smaller version of get the teams in.
Yeah, I mean,
we
could actually bring soccer in one afternoon and play the next day. That would not be an issue.
Right.
Soccer is, I'm gonna get blasted for this, but it's a lot simpler in that you can go out and say, we're gonna run a 4-4-2, or we're gonna run a diamond there, or whatever, and the kids know what they're talking about because they've played all this before. There's a whole lot more different offenses in basketball or football.
Schemes are
defense, that's no problem.
Yeah.
But offensively, you've got to do so much more work.
What about this new bunch at High Point that have come together here, the Carolina Core? Any thoughts about trying to connect with them on anything as far as for the future?
Yeah, I spoke with the owner when she talked to the sports council, and we set up a meeting, and I think Joe and I are the ones Joe and I went, and we thought it went really well, and it just never
came together.
Never came. The last thing they told us was they'd work with us on rent for the facility. Well, I don't want to go to High Point.
No, you just want to get them involved as far as, because it sounds like they're drawing good crowds over there, but still, if you get some of their soccer enthusiasts to come over here and maybe watch the game, that wouldn't be a bad.
Well, we had actually talked about playing a doubleheader. Or triple header. It would be our two games and their game. And if not the same day, play them the next day. And one ticket would get you in all three. I mean, we had some good ideas, I thought.
Those are good ideas, yeah.
I think it would help them a little bit, and it'd help us maybe a lot.
Yeah, and they're fairly new. It definitely would help them, yeah.
But
if they're having any success, I'd like to feed off. If I find a guy's having success, if I can feed off his success and make it work a little bit, and everybody. Now, the term I came up with was dovetail. Let's dovetail, the whole crazy old term.
That was the idea.
Yeah, wow.
Eddie Pope, who played in our football game.
Absolutely, yeah. Football game, the kicker, of all things.
He's in management over there.
Sure is, yeah.
We're hoping maybe he'll talk to some folks and reignite the discussions for next year or whatever.
Exactly.
So, we're very open to working with them.
That's a good idea, I think, for the future. Yeah. Things could come together. Any way you can work with people, this will work out. Yeah, exactly. The core, Carolina Core, and they have had a long season, that's for sure. I think their first part of their season, they played about the first 2.5 months, 3 months on the road. Finally got home.
Long.
Yeah, it is long and grinding, good grinding.
But that's a nice park over there.
The Rocker Stadium. Yeah, that's what I hear. I've seen it in person for baseball a little bit, but not for the soccer. And they redid the field, and I don't think there's any grass in that field at all now. I think it's all synthetic turf as far as that goes. Back to some of this interesting stuff here. Looking back maybe toward the basketball. Back in the day, Sonny Jurgensen played the basketball game, right? Did not play in the football game.
No.
Did Roman Gabriel play in the football game?
He did.
Thought so. And he passed away, I think, earlier this year. A lot of those guys have moved on.
Afraid so.
Yeah, a lot of those guys, like I think about the coaches within the past year or two, it's been like Coach Slayton, Coach Kirby, Richard Kemp from Ragsdale, Mike Rabin, Ragsdale, and Coach Hollifield recently from Western Guilford, Doug Henderson a while back, and I think the list just goes on and on. Ones we've lost, and boy, Coach Kirby was a big loss because he was with you guys for a long time over here.
Yeah, we miss him. He was a good guy to be around, and a straight shooter, and very high moral character.
You've had a good working staff here over the years, that's for sure. The people in this building have come together and put this on for a long time. And like we said, you had connection with the News and Record back in the day when Smith Barrier and Coach Jamison worked together on this. And now you've got the News and Record coming back around on it with Bryant Roche now covering you pretty well. So everything that goes around comes around sometimes.
I think we'll be in good shape with Reed Holmes. Baseball coach at Southwest. He's been around enough now that he's contacting me and saying, hey, let me do this, or I think I ought to do this. So he's about ready to step in big time. And we've got a couple other local folks that we've talked to. We're negotiating with to bring on once Mac and I age out. I don't know when that'll be, but
well, I guess it's one of those things too. Sometimes these coaches begin to make changes. Sometimes they'll bring a coach new coach in to be able to kind of work with them on almost at the same level as they kind of transition out. So maybe Reed Holmes will be like your co-operator for a while as you begin to look toward the existence down the road.
Reed's here to replace me eventually.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. There's no hiding that as far as that goes.
We've got David Rogers, who's over at the clinic, and he's from Page, track coach, who's he's ready to go with running that registration area. I mean, this morning they had lines. Let's see, they have 6 new registration lines, I believe, and they were stretched from the inside of the exhibition hall outside of the Coliseum.
Gotta love that. That's
we do. We got to have that money to operate.
People from out of town coming in, and they're spending money here locally, so this is good for the entire area, good for the economy.
Well, what do you think it costs to put on a football game?
I would say probably about $75,000.
You're short.
Huh.
We were 105 the last time we checked.
I was guessing high just to see, to try to cover my tracks. $105,000.
Yeah, basketball and soccer aren't nearly as much, but you talk about room and board for football players, and buses, and you got to have a bus for each team, that sort of thing. It just mounts up.
Yeah, there's a lot involved in this thing. It's a big operation.
And a lot of people don't understand our clinic and games have. Last time we asked the Visitors Bureau, it was $10,700,000 impact on Guilford County.
Mm-hmm.
So,
if I were Guilford County, I definitely would want to continue to support that, because that's a big boost during the summertime when some people are actually leaving town, going to places. You got people coming into town and staying with you guys.
We were actually the second highest to the ACC men's tournament one year, bigger than the Wyndham, bigger than the women's ACC, as far as financial impact.
Big impact, yeah.
Because most of the golf fans don't take hotel rooms.
No, that's for sure. Most of them just come in and watch that day and then go back home.
Exactly.
Travel in, transit out. Mm-hmm. And back in the day when I was reading, I like to always go to the history page of the association, the Coach Association, and they talk about the East West All-Star Games. Back in the day, the games pretty much supported the clinic, and then as time went on, it kind of reversed itself. Now the clinic supports the games in a lot of ways.
We couldn't do the games. We don't make peanuts on gate receipts.
Right. But the clinic does well.
Right.
And like you said, the clinic doing well with not as many name-recognized people sometimes. That is really says a lot for the clinic. And sometimes it costs more to get the, I don't know if it costs, but sometimes it requires more to be done to bring those bigger names in. Sometimes if some people operate at a lower level, like minor league baseball versus AA, AAA, whatever, sometimes you make more money at the lower level than the bigger level because you have less expenses sometimes and it costs much to operate. So a lot of things to weigh into consideration here in this business operation.
You've got to pay those folks usually pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have people, Jim Grove would never take a check.
Wow, Jim Grove Wake Forest.
Mike Krzyzewski wouldn't take his last year. They're just people that help you because they know we're doing some good stuff.
They've been there and done that themselves. They were there coming through. They saw how it works.
Yeah.
They know. And go back to Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams, I guess it was last year, the 75th anniversary of everything.
You're pretty lucky on that one.
Yeah, and the thing about it was you probably had, it took a while for that to hit ESPN, I know that. It took a while to come out. But boy, the hype around it as it was coming in was so big. The hype before the finished product was so big, it just brought so much attention to things, and that was just such a success, I would say, for you.
Yeah, and there's a good, 40 minutes probably of unused tape that I'd love to see. Because we were sitting down, in the end zone of the Coliseum, and the sound there wasn't as good as for the people in the stands. And so every now and then one of the comments Roy or Mike would make, we just didn't catch.
Right.
So we really love to see that raw footage of what that is. But I've got it taped at home. It was remarkable how talented those two guys are at making people comfortable.
Yeah, that makes a difference too.
I'd greet them at the door and brought them in, and there was, a few of our staff and Sports Foundation, maybe 10 guys in there or whatever, and they just immediately started talking and, just like they were glad to see everybody.
So how much they're so tied into the public? You think back about Mike Krzyzewski, a lot of times coaches, you're not aware of who they are, what they are, but his wife, Mickey Krzyzewski, you can't forget her name because you always saw them together and working together. And then like Roy Williams was like Wanda. I think his wife's name was Wanda.
It is.
You knew those people because of their families. they brought their families so much into what they did. They were so oriented toward people oriented.
Well, I think when you get to the college level, as a coach, a head coach, your family has to buy in and become part of the team. Look at Marissa Young at Duke, softball coach, and her husband and his medical issues, and how much those girls cared about him when he finally got to, I think when they were in the regional playoffs maybe, and he made his first game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of college coaches have kids out to their houses and that sort of thing. And your wife can't help but get involved because she's got to live with you, bringing that. You don't want to take your game home, but you can't help it.
Everybody does.
You got to watch film. You got to talk on the phone. So all of our wives, high school and college, are husbands for a female coach are just terribly important.
Yeah, and I think the coach at Wake Forest, the basketball coach, been as a basketball coach, his wife had cancer. That kind of got caught up in everything.
Yeah, that was a big story. You know that affected those kids too.
Yeah, all part of that group.
Yeah.
Thinking about each other.
Luckily that one worked out.
And lift each other up, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, it's been great today again. Remind us one more time, since reiteration's a big part of what we do. Tonight's basketball games again?
Yeah, 6:30 women, 8:30 men, probably close to that, at the Novant Fieldhouse Coliseum. And tomorrow night soccer, 6:30 and 8:30, unless we have a weather delay at Grimsley High School for men and women's soccer.
And no overtimes in the soccer?
Soccer, we will not play overtime now.
Gotcha. Coach, appreciate your time as always. Always good to go back and talk about a lot of the things from the past that have happened over the past year. And continued success for you and Coach Morris and Coach Franks, Joe Franks, and others that run this operation. I guess that's the three core men right now. Plus you mentioned Reed Holmes and David Rogers working up the ladder, getting ready to do some things.
You got Malia running the whole office, and Tim runs the website. And I don't know if you know this, but Earl Vaughn is now doing our social media.
Yeah, you mentioned him a couple of years ago. Yeah, former Fayetteville.
Famous old Hall of Fame journalist from Fayetteville.
Exactly.
We're awfully lucky to get him, and we're lucky to have you too.
Well, Earl Vaughn's well known too. He does a lot of stuff on the media too, as far as the internet goes. He was always kind of a good Twitter man as far as putting things out, and a lot of people follow him in that part of the state, and they've begun to follow him in other parts of the state too, as he's kind of transitioned to his new roles there. But like I say, you got to keep it moving. Back to Smitty Barrier, and back in the old days with the coach things over the years. It's been something. Coach Jamison and Smitty Barrier got it going back in the day. And you look at Smitty Barrier's old home now. Right now, you see how things have changed over the years. You drive by the old News and Record building downtown, and that's just a vacant lot.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Things do change, but the more they change, the more they stay the same. Sometimes they keep changing and moving. But Coach, thank you for your time again, and continued success.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.